What's up, everyone? Welcome to the April 12th edition of FanDuel Tournament Plays presented by PrizePicks. I'm Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. We have a 9-game MLB slate tonight, so gradually getting larger slates. That'll continue to happen as teams get their home openers out of the way and stop playing day games every day of the week. But typically, I think that the bigger slates get during MLB season, the better they are. You just get more options. People still heavily play chalk, and it doesn't work out a lot because it's baseball. So it's a sport where, I think being more contrarian than you are in a sport like basketball makes a lot of sense. So today we're going to take a look at 3 of the top tournament stacks and 3 of the top pitchers for tournaments on FanDuel. Starting with the stacks, number 3, the Toronto Blue Jays have a 6% chance of being the top stack. They're projected for about 4% aggregate ownership. They have a 4.6 implied run total tonight at New York. They're facing Nestor Cortez, who's coming off of a solid season last year against right-handed hitters in particular. He held them to a modest 167 ISO, struck out 27% of them, but you still have a massive, massive amount of power in this Toronto lineup. There are 7 hitters in the projected starting lineup for the Blue Jays that have an ISO north of 200 against left-handed pitching since the start of the 2019 season. This is a team where I'm pretty much just always going to be willing to get to them when they're not popular, and that looks like it's going to be the case tonight. Number 2, Colorado Rockies, projected for 5% aggregate ownership with a 6% chance of being the top stack. They are taking on Martin Perez in Texas. They have a 4.5 implied run total. Texas, of course, is not the same hitter-friendly park that it was a couple of years ago. We got a new stadium. All stadiums now also have humidors, so that's certainly not going to help either. But Perez is someone that pitches to contact, and he will give up some power. He allowed a 214 ISO to right-handed hitters last year, while only striking out 19.6%. The Rockies certainly don't have the most power in their lineup, and this is a team that pretty much every year underperforms outside of Coors Field, but you do still have some right-handed power in Chris Bryant and CJ Cron in particular. Randall Grichuk gives you a nice cheap option as well. Assuming he's going to be in the lineup, you can certainly look to some to guys like Connor Joe, Brendan Rodgers. It's a team that I think still has enough power that against a pitcher like Perez that if he's not locating well, can get blown up really easily, is pretty appealing at low ownership. And number 1, the Houston Astros, projected for 6% aggregate ownership with a 9% chance of being in the optimal lineup. The Astros are taking on Madison Bumgarner in Arizona. Bumgarner is someone who definitely appears to be on the downside of his career and has for a few years. Last year, he did put together some good starts, but he also still struggled against right-handed hitters in particular, only striking out 18.7% while allowing a 198 ISO to right-handed bats. We know that the Astros have a lot of right-handed power in their lineup, whether you're talking about Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Diaz has some power. Gurriel could be back. He has a little bit of pop as well. But even the lefties here, Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Michael Brantley, if he were to be in the lineup, they can hit as well. So a pretty difficult matchup for Bumgarner, a very high upside spot for the Astros, who have a 4.9 implied run total tonight in Arizona. Now, looking at the pitchers, coming in at number 3, Yusei Kikuchi, $8,000 price tag, projected for about 1% ownership with a 7% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Being the top scoring pitcher. He's not a high probability option. You only roster one pitcher on FanDuel. There's several guys that have better chances of being the top scorer, but he does still have upside here. He struck out about 24.5% of hitters last year. He had a 3.85 xFIP. Very dangerous matchup against the Yankees. A lot of right-handed power in this lineup. Also, a lot of guys that just don't strike out as much against left-handed pitching as they do against right-handed pitching, which isn't surprising given that a lot of your high strikeout guys like Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge do hit from the right side. You would expect them to have favorable splits against lefties. But Kikuchi's still just a good pitcher that is certainly capable of giving you a good start here at very low ownership against what is also likely to be a relatively popular Yankees team. Number 2, Jesus Luzardo, $7,100 price tag, projected for 2% ownership with a 7% chance of being the top scoring pitcher. Luzardo is very inexpensive. He's taking on the Los Angeles Angels. The Angels have a 4.9 implied run total. Again, not a safe spot whatsoever for Luzardo, but he does have good stuff. He's 1 year removed from being considered a top pitching prospect with Oakland. He really struggled with the A's last year, ended up being dealt to Miami as part of the Starling Marte trade. But he also, while he wasn't good, he did outperform his peripherals by a bit. 4.84 xFIP for Luzardo compared to a 6.22 ERA. Struck out 22.5% of hitters. He's cheap enough and low owned enough where I don't mind just gambling on him against a kind of mediocre Angels lineup. I mean, you have Rendon, you have Trout, maybe, probably. You have Ohtani. But other than that, it's not like this is the the most potent lineup in the world. They don't really have much beyond those guys. So if Luzardo is able to sort of harness this stuff that we know is good, he can still give you a good start here, even though it is a dangerous matchup. And number one, Alex Cobb getting the start for the San Francisco Giants. Cobb had a really nice bounce back year last year after dealing with a lot of injuries, both during his time with Tampa Bay, then with the Orioles. Bounced back last year with the Angels, striking out 24.9% of hitters with a 3.38 xFIP. Cobb now gets to pitch in San Francisco. He's facing the San Diego Padres, best pitcher's park in baseball. Cobb has a 7% chance of being the top scoring pitcher at $7,600, and he's only projected for about 5% ownership. So to recap, the top three tournament stacks on FanDuel: number 3, the Toronto Blue Jays; number 2, the Colorado Rockies; number 1, the Houston Astros; and the top three tournament pitchers on FanDuel: number 3, Yusei Kikuchi; number 2, Jesus Luzardo; and number 1, Alex Cobb.